celebrate 25, now 26 years of Pilbrow Surveying being in business. I want to thank Ward Quarries for allowing us to be here tonight and providing an impressive backdrop for that awesome laser show.
Yeah.
Now, I plan to get quite detailed outlining some of the company history over the last 26 years. So for those of you who hold a certificate of competency, I want you to take notes, outline your key learnings and claim some CPD hours. Pilbrow Surveying was created by my parents, Jeff and Sally. They had been operating as a partnership since 1990, supplying surveying services from their house in Bombay. I returned from South Africa in 1995, aiming to work for Colcorp. While waiting, I'd been working with them, and when the Colcorp job didn't happen, we decided to make it permanent. They incorporated the company in September 1996. Thank you to Sally and Jeff for allowing me to be part of that. At that time, Jeff had been using a theodolite with a separately attached EDM. When we began operating as two gangs, the survey gear was updated to an early total station and one of the first motorised total stations when they were released. This was the beginning of the company's path of technological advancement. I remember the last major pre-GPS survey we did was for earthworks on the Formosa Beachlands golf course. To quickly cover the ground, I had two chainmen jogging across the ground with prism poles, and I was manually aiming and recording each shot. In 1999, we bought the first Leica GPS 500 system sold in New Zealand. This system gave us a major step forward in productivity. We could now work as a one-person operation, and the GPS negated the need for traversing and control, which was often destroyed by the construction guys. Our productivity became higher, giving us a competitive edge, and it allowed us to get things done faster for our clients. In 2000, Jeff semi-retired and moved with Sally to Duntroon, with Jeff returning to help over the busy summer periods. The company base was moved to an office at the Bombay Quarry. Then in 2003, I built a new house here in Chakofata and included space for an office. And since then, we've been based here. Sadly, in January 2006, Jeff died while attending a fire with the Duntroon Volunteer Fire Brigade. He was unable to see the company achieve the 10-year milestone. A year later, Kamil Pekalski joined us from Poland. He had worked with his parents' surveying company in Poland and was a great fit with Pilbrow Surveying. He has now become our company's expert on machine control data preparation, enabling us to have a presence in this rapidly growing aspect of construction surveying. In 2010, the global financial crisis dramatically reduced our subdivision work, and I foresaw that machine control systems would start to bite further into our traditional construction setup, while at the same time our quarry clients were becoming increasingly concerned with safety, and I could see the time coming when we would not be able to work on some sites with our existing equipment. I began to look at new technology to see if there was something that could help us weather the downturn, attain a significantly higher level of safety, and provide a replacement income stream. At that time, I was sent an article about a Western Australian company that had used a remote control helicopter mounted with a camera to do a stockpile survey. I investigated further and found that they were already using ground-based photogrammetry for quarry surveys, and the same principles could be applied to the images from the heli. This looked like a good solution for my question of where to next for the company. So I went across to Perth for some training and came back enthused about the possibilities. To further test the viability of the method, I had 2 real estate photographers do trials for me at the then Stevenson's Huntly Quarry. One had a large helium blimp, the other a small helicopter. On the day it was not particularly windy, but the balloon guy was dragged around the quarry and it was impossible to get the images where they were needed to ensure overlap for the photo processing. The remote control helicopter had similar problems. Even though we could see what the camera was seeing, it was almost impossible to get the images in the right place. This led me to search around the world for what UAV systems were available. Back then, there were few autonomous flying systems available and none were set up for surveying. I was dithering, trying to decide on the appropriate vehicle to use when the Gatewing X100 was introduced as a complete terrain mapping system. This was what I was looking for, so I jumped at it. At that time, there was no training available in New Zealand, so I went across to Belgium and was trained directly by the developers. Then in September 2011, I took delivery and Pilbrow Surveying became the first company in New Zealand to use this low-level unmanned aerial mapping system. The first site I used the system on was Bombay Quarry. We surveyed their stockpiles monthly using GPS and reflectorless total stations. The last time we did it manually, it took 3 of us 8 hours to complete. We would also survey the area where the overburden was being removed to calculate quantities for paying the contractor. This usually took 2 people half a day. Then every 3 months we would spend a day updating the working faces of the pit. Our first X100 flight took just over half an hour and we covered the stockpiles, the overburden removal area and the working pit all at the same time. Even with the time spent placing out the control points, this was a massive increase in efficiency. For the client to accept this new way of doing things, they wanted the results within the same time, for the same cost and at the same accuracy. It took me 6 months to optimise our procedures for the placing of ground control, flying to capture images, processing of the data, calculating the necessary volumes and preparing the plans so that the results were available to the client the next day. Now that I had the workflow optimised, we started to take the method to other sites. I targeted our existing core markets of quarries and large construction sites. In 2012, Esther and I had a stand at the Quarry Conference in Wellington, where we had the X100 on display. We were awarded the AJ and RJ Loader Shield for Best Sponsors Display. This gave us an enormous amount of exposure to just the type of clients we needed. It took 2 years to get to a point where we had a good base of returning customers and a steady stream of new clients. By that time, word had got out and I was doing work all around the country with the X100. Things were going extremely well with our UAV surveying. In January 2013, due to the increasing workload, Ella Pukalska joined us to assist with low-level mapping operations and photogrammetric processing. Then, in August 2015, after 4 years and 270 X100 missions covering 117 hours of flying, they changed the drone laws. Up to this point, I'd been operating under the model aircraft rules. These were incorporated into the new Part 101 rules. The biggest difference was a a new requirement to have permission from all landowners and people who we might overfly. This made the long turning circles of the X100 a liability. To avoid having to fly outside the areas we were interested in, I bought a multi-rotor from Altus called the Delta X8. The ability to launch and land within a much smaller area than the X100 opened up new sites for us to survey. Now we were able to fly the tiny quarries and small construction sites that made up a significant proportion of our up till then still manual work. From this point on, our drone workload went ballistic, so I purchased a second multi-rotor, the LRX. With the need to obtain permissions from all landowners being impractical in some situations, I worked through building up an exposition for the Civil Aviation Authority to obtain an unmanned aircraft operator certificate. We were granted this certificate in March 2016, initially for 2 years, but now after recertification we have a 5-year authorisation. The privilege of this certificate permits us to conduct operations without the consent of the property owner and occupier as long as certain conditions are met. Most of our drone surveys are done to capture ground data. This is what is needed for volume calcs or design work. The photogrammetry from our unmanned aerial systems provides great data for the working areas of quarries and construction sites. However, nearly all quarries in New Zealand and many construction sites are surrounded by vegetation. So practically right from the start I was asked, can I survey those areas with the drone as well? I had to say no. For those areas we had to get in there with the total station or get the vegetation cleared away to allow us to do the survey. For this reason, in 2015, I began a 2-year investigation and development process which culminated in us purchasing a Snoopy LiDAR system from LiDAR USA. The sensor on this first unit was a Velodyne puck. The initial results were okay, but not as good as I'd been hoping. As my trials went on, the data seemed to be getting worse. Eventually I found that the lasers in the puck were failing and it was sent back and replaced under warranty. But while it was in the US, I decided to upgrade the laser to the Velodyne HDL32. The updated system worked really well and we were able to get some impressive results in very dense vegetation. After using that system for a couple of years, I was finding some shortcomings. For many sites, the main problem is maintaining line of sight and clearance with the unmanned aircraft while carrying out a LiDAR survey. A maximum effective range of 80 metres meant to be sure of getting good ground strike with the LiDAR. For some sites with large elevation differences, I had to fly below the height of some of the trees in the upper slopes. This is not pleasant to do and was my major cause of stress at the time. To overcome the range restriction, I upgraded the sensor in the Snoopy unit to a Regal Minivux 1 UAV. This new laser has an effective range of 150 metres with an accuracy of 15 millimetres. This new setup has made it possible for me to survey some exceedingly difficult sites that I could not do before. As the data is also coming back much cleaner than from the Velodyne lasers, I have been able to use the same system as a mobile scanner. With the purchase of the UAV LiDAR, I bought an Ork 2 helicopter from Altus to give longer flying times with the heavier sensor, and many of you will see the impressive Ork in action. Back in 2013, I had looked at a do-it-yourself stockpile app and an online inventory management system. This was the focus of our stand at the Quarry Conference in 2014. At that time, there was very little enthusiasm for the idea from clients, so I didn't follow up on it. Then 2 years ago, we began developing Techie, the Construction Exchange Hub. This is our online portal for data viewing and sharing. This has had a much better reception, and many of you here tonight are using it. Building on Teki's capabilities, we have now developed the Tapu Tapu. This is our all-in-one device for mapping and viewing site details. The first 10 of these devices will be going out to selected clients for field testing soon. It is our aim to have every contractor, foreman, geotech, council inspector, architect and consultant in New Zealand kitted out with one of these in the future. Over the years, we have employed many people, and some past employees are here tonight. As our workload has steadily increased over the last 5 years, we have added further new people to our team. In 2018, Radek joined us from Poland. Radek has been mainly working at Drury South and various TDM projects. With the unmanned aircraft work steadily increasing, I felt we needed another pilot, so in 2019 I took on James Porteous. James joined us from South Africa, working in coal mines there. Our latest new person is Wayne Habib, who joined us mid-2021 as a survey assistant. I want to say thank you to all of you. Carmel and Ella have been with Pilbrow Surveying for much of its existence, and in 2019 bought into the business. They are now half owners with Esther and I. I want to say thank you to Carmel and Ella for becoming a vital part of Pilbrow Surveying. I don't know if I can say this next bit without crying. I want to thank Esther for putting up with my enthusiasm for some new bit of equipment and manning our stand at the Quarry Conference when I've wandered off to talk to someone. Over the last 26 years, we have worked with a huge range of people. It is only because all of you continue to use us that we have remained in business. Tonight's event is our way of saying thank you. And we have a gift for each invitee, so before you leave, please take your ticket medallion, which I'm sure you all bought, and swap it for your gift. Now, enjoy the rest of the evening, do some networking, and I hope to see you tapu tapuing in the near future. Thank you. So the food probably isn't ready for a little while, so these guys will play some music, you can have some more drinks and chat. Thank you.